What's up, everyone? Welcome to another video. And today I am very excited to have a friend of mine, Marcus Manderson, on the call here. We're going to be talking about sync music and how you can potentially get into it as well. Marcus has had quite a bit of experience and he's been a follower of the channel for a long time as well, super supportive and encouraging. So I really appreciate you being here today, Marcus. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Been, like you said, been following, been a fan. I can't remember the first time I saw you, but you popped up on the radar, and yeah, been enjoying the overviews, the Super Mario run-throughs, the
Oh, yeah.
orchestration videos. I've been enjoying it all, man. So
Thank
congratulations
you.
to you, man.
Thank you so much, man. And first of all, let me quickly apologize to everyone that my lighting is terrible today. I'm actually not at my studio, so I had to improvise a little bit. But anyway, it's not about me today. So Marcus, maybe you can just share a little bit about your musical background and then how you kind of found sync recently.
Yeah, so I studied music growing up. My mom, I am the youngest of five, and my mom had all her kids in piano lessons. So I took piano lessons and I stuck with it through school, went to college for music at JMU in Harrisonburg, Virginia, James Madison University, and then uh, went to a local school. I'm in the DC area, Virginia, in the United States. And there was at the time, Pro Tools was like the one thing like you had to know if you were trying to get in the audio industry. So I went to a school called Omega Recording Studios School of Applied Recording Arts and Sciences. It's a long
Nice.
name. It's also a studio in Maryland to get certified to use Pro Tools. So I got that certification, and at the end of my sort of program there, it's about a year. I actually got a job opportunity to work at National Geographic to run the audio studio there. And I still work there to this day, but running the audio studio and the recording side of things. And it was when I started working there, I always tell people that I make music, that I had the opportunity to work on some music for some of the stuff that was being put on the channel. And it wasn't part of my job. This was outside of my job. So I was able to freelance as a musician for some of those things. And then also for museum exhibits. So that opened my eyes to the world of sync. I still didn't know that was called sync at the time. And was doing that really up until the pandemic, doing music for museum exhibits. I also played piano and organ in church. And then once the pandemic hit, the church sort of went virtual, and I departed that sort of field of things and started studying sync, like formal sync licensing, and started getting into music libraries and things like that. And so the first year of the pandemic, 2020, I did a lot of contests. I entered over 200 music contests. So a lot of the gear, a lot of the stuff and software I have is from contests. And then 2021, I started getting into sync licensing. And then 2022, last year, I started studying trailer music, movie trailers, video game trailers. So that's sort of the quick 2 minute spiel of the
Perfect.
musical journey. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah. So, well, first of all, I think anyone would be like proud and happy to work for National Geo. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
But yeah, I guess for someone who's completely new to this thing, can you quickly define for us what sync is and why someone might want to pursue this avenue?
Yes. So sync is taking music that music creator has, pre-existing music that was already made, and synchronizing or putting it in sync with video content. So some people think that you can get sync deals for like podcasts and radio shows. Technically, that's not true. It has to be pairing music that already exists to a picture.
Mm,
So if you have pre-existing music, you might get it synced on a TV show, a movie, a commercial, advertising, things like that. That is different from like a composer, such as Hans Zimmer, John Williams, James Newton Howard, any composer, name Ludwig, who composes music to picture, usually picture that already exists, or maybe they have a script, but that is different than what we consider sync. So
mm.
it's pre-existing music. That's why it's big artists, Taylor Swift, whoever, Justin Bieber, whoever your favorite artist is, they can have a song out and it can be synced to commercials and movies and things because the song already exists. And what we've been seeing a lot is a lot of uh, old, oldie but goodie songs being synced now, and bringing new life to some of those classic artists and performers that we've known and loved for decades. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what I mean it definitely makes sense to have like kind of separate the sync world from
Yeah.
the composer world because like you said you're literally writing to something versus you already have something written.
Mhm.
Um but I think yeah, one of the big questions I see a lot then come up is how wide of a variety is there in sync in terms of like genres of music, right? Like, are there publishers that publish non-commercial sort of music, like concert music, or is it really just honed in on more, film stuff, or like what's the range there?
The range is wide, almost any genre that exists. Maybe not so many opportunities for like metal, but there might be some here and there.
Mhm.
But the genres are wide. I've seen things from literally on one of the sync groups online. There's a guy who focuses on jazz. That's all he does is like
Mm.
jazz. So he finds libraries that helps him get placements for jazz music. So
Mm.
there, if you can find a library for it, you do have libraries that focus on like classical or neoclassical. There are some that will accept anything. There are some that only accept vocals, songs with vocals, like songs. So there's a wide range, and then genres could be basically any musical genre. Country, pop, hip hop, R&B. Anything can be synced as long as it works for the picture
Mm.
that the studio or the director is working on.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great news for pretty
Yeah,
much everyone
for
listening.
everyone, for everyone who makes music. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, I guess building off of that, then, if someone is serious about getting started and they want to find some publishers to share their music with, what is a great way to start looking for publishers? Because everyone knows of cold calling, cold emailing, and
Mhm.
maybe that's effective, maybe that's not. So, what do you feel in your experience has been helpful?
What I found is finding the Google's great. You can do a Google search on, publishers, sync licensing agencies, sync licensing companies, and you can research them. So if you find a company or a list of companies, go one by one and see what placements they have, and see if that can help you identify, if your music would fit in their catalog. And a lot of these companies have on their website where you can just submit music. If you go to their website, there's like a contact us form or submit music. If anything, there should be a contact where you can contact them and say, hey, are you looking for composers or producers at this time? I specialize in these genres. How can I send music for consideration or something like that?
Mm.
The other way is finding sync groups online and seeing, in a lot of these sync groups, especially like on Facebook, LinkedIn, maybe Reddit, people are posting when they get placements. So they might say, hey, I got a placement in this show, thanks to this company. And you can then start researching that company. So a lot of times you want to find the companies that are getting placements. Uh, so happy to share a few. Pink Shark Music is one. If you want to start taking notes, I'll give you three. Lyric House is a big one. And then the trailer music is a whole different space. So there are trailer companies such as Ghostwriter that are placing like epic orchestral music. That's a whole different like mindset in movie trailers and things like that. So yeah, there's a bunch of those too. Those are just some that come to mind, but there's a bunch of companies and libraries on both ends of the spectrum for sync licensing and trailer
Right.
music. And there are also genres of trailer music. So there could be like hip hop trailers or neoclassical trailers and things like that. So
Gotcha.
a lot of opportunity for music creators in
That's
the sync.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see sync as sort of like a growing field, or is it something that's starting to get oversaturated and there's, not much opportunity, or is it something that's really expanding in the, past few years?
So it is. I think I don't know if it's growing or if it's basically the same as it's been for a few years, but more people are
Mm.
becoming aware of it. So
Yeah.
there are hundreds, if not thousands, of libraries that you can reach out to, and there are so many opportunities to get music into streaming platforms. Let's say a streaming platform could have hundreds of shows, if
Mm.
not more, and then you also have the traditional broadcast channels, and then you have other avenues such as social media, commercials that might and then you have different countries. So you might have
Mm.
something that might sync in like on a show that's only in Germany or something like that. So there's so many opportunities just as a music creator that you can find these different avenues with different libraries and different shows and things like that. So
Cool.
I
Okay.
think I think it's for me it's the easiest way to get your music into something that can be beneficial for you, as in you can upload it to like streaming platforms, and that's kind of easy, but
Hmm.
you need like a million spins just to get 5 cents or something like that. So
Right.
with a lot of
Yep.
time to sync, once you get something placed, the financial benefits could be very,
Totally.
very, yeah, very healthy.
Right, 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 right. Well, that's fantastic. So let's say if someone is in talks with a publisher and they're interested in writing for them, what are some like I guess this is something that's not talked about as much, but like contracts and agreements, right? Like what are some general terms that composers should be aware of? That's, a fair balance with the library, but just so they ensure they're not being taken advantage of.
Yeah, and of course, disclaimer: this is not legal advice. This is
Yes.
just experience and
Just personal
yeah,
experience.
personal experience and opinions and thoughts.
Yes.
So if you sign a terrible deal, that is not my fault or Chris's
Yep.
fault. But if you sign a great deal, feel free to split the
Yeah.
royalties with both me and Chris.
There you go.
So I always had to put that disclaimer out. Some things to look out for are basically what rights are you giving to the company. When I first started getting back into sync, I was worried, especially trailer music, because I was like, oh, they want to take all of publishing. And in the sort of traditional like hip hop, R&B, pop music space, you're told never to give up your publishing. So I
Mm,
reached out to some big composers in the space. I was like, hey, is this like a thing? And they were like, yeah, you can, that's fine. Keep your writer share, but in order for them to publish your song, they need to have publisher share. So some companies will take 100% publishing. You just want to make sure you keep all the writer share. And some companies will actually split some of the publishing with you. So there's some companies that might do 50% publishing, and you can keep the publishing. One thing that you want to have on the business side is make sure you have your own publishing company, or at least vanity publishing with your PRO. So for example, I use BMI here in the United States, and I'm signed with BMI as a writer, and then I also have a publishing company. And that way you make sure that you are collecting all both sides of the payment. You don't necessarily have to have a publishing company with BMI. You do with ASCAP, but it's better to just have all of your business situated, especially when you're working with things that place overseas, because a lot of times overseas sync placements, they want to see that you have your own publishing if the company
mm,
you're working with splits publishing. So that's something. And then on contracts in general, you want to make sure that what you're signing is specifically the songs that you're working, and you're not signing yourself.
mm,
Meaning there's a term called exclusivity and not exclusivity. And I am in favor of exclusive agreements for the songs that I submit to a library, and that puts more value on those songs and those tracks. Non-exclusive means you can submit a song to one library, but you can submit the same song to another library. The problem there is if both libraries submit the same song to a movie or TV show placement, how does the TV show director or producer determine which library to go with if they really like
mhm.
this song and it's the same song? So do they
Yeah.
go with the library that submitted first, or they go with the library that they've gotten placements for before? Do they go with the library they're friends with? So um, the last thing you want to do is make it difficult for a TV producer or music supervisor or music editor to work with you. So
Right.
or and a library, but you don't want to cause those. So right now I'm in huge favor of just exclusively sending music that's exclusive to one library. Sometimes, if depending on the circumstances, it might be non-exclusive. But you as an artist, you might want to just consider if you're going to sign with a library exclusively yourself, so that you can't work with any other libraries.
Mm,
There are pros and cons of that, but
right.
if you sign with a library where you are the exclusive, uh, you can only work with them.
Sure.
That will limit you from pursuing those other opportunities.
Right. That's great. Yeah, I guess maybe being an exclusive composer makes sense if you really line up with the values of that company, or you feel like they do the exact work that, their styles that you would maybe enjoy the most, right? But um
Yeah.
I guess when it comes to, writing music specifically, um, because this is a problem I run into all the time. It's more of a mental thing, but how much music should I be writing, or would one be writing to stay relevant or stay top of mind with these companies, for example? Like, for example, if I've written an album, let's say a year ago, and I want to submit all those songs for consideration to the publisher, but then afterwards I have a lapse of motivation, right? Or I'm not able to write music for a while. How will that affect things? Like, there are people who write every single day, and Marcus, you work super hard. So do you have any advice for people who want to get their music placed, but they don't necessarily want or are able to write all the time?
Yeah, every day, I have to make music every day. I literally can't sleep if I don't make. It's like I would be up till 3 or 4 in the morning making music. And a lot of times
Love
I
it.
make, at least a track, and it could be anywhere from like a 10-second, idea
Right,
to
right,
like
right.
two,
Just
3 minutes,
something.
depending on time and things, but something. And if you can't, whether schedule wise or you have other commitments, do every day. I would say if it's something you want to do, at least every 2 to 3 days, more than once a week. So if you can get 3 to 4 times a week. But the big thing would be scheduling, and I actually got to improve on this. I just find time. I don't really put things on the
Hmm.
schedule. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch this basketball game, and I'm gonna make music while watching the game.
Right.
So scheduling, and you can do things if you can make music while doing other things. Like if you want to just play a movie that you don't really have to watch, or play like TV show. Um, so you can do things like that. But I think scheduling, whether you want to use a calendar, iOS, Google, there's a bunch of like task apps and things out there you can use. If you want to use sort of management apps like Trello, Wrike, Asana, there's a
Hmm.
bunch of those out there to sort of keep track of, hey, every day from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., I'm going to work on music. And
Right.
that would be work on making music. Uh, because a lot of times we might think that learning about music is also being productive, and sometimes it's not, where you
Mm.
spend like a year taking lessons and doing all these
Yeah.
trainings and things, which is great, but you at some point have to get out there and make the music and then start submitting the music for opportunities. So if you want to stay relevant, at least every 2 to 3 days, I would say,
Mm.
stay at it, because even after that, you might forget, or
Yeah.
once you have a huge lapse, things just sort of fall by the wayside. So every
Sure.
day is great if possible. That would be uh, the ideal. And if you
Sure.
can't do every day, if you have a weekend, maybe you work so hard, Monday through Friday. If you have a
Mm.
weekend, just take that one day, a Saturday, like 4 to 8 hours, nothing but music, and see what happens.
Right. Sounds like that consistency is so important, right? It's
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
everything, man.
yeah.
So you're essentially telling me that I have no hope in sync. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
no, no, yeah, you have all the hope, because
No,
you're really consistent. So yeah.
well, that's the thing, man. So for someone like me, I like my all of my routine or consistency mainly comes through the channel, right? Because I enjoy what I do and it helps other people as well at the same time, blah 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 blah. But the creative side, when I write music, it's one of those things where, at least for me personally, I know if I write every single day, um, I think I'll get burnt out pretty quickly because uh I naturally want to be emotionally invested in like every single track I write. Selfishly I want it to be like the best piece of music I've ever written, every single thing I write, right?
Mhm.
And so I like really respect it when people like you can just crank out tracks like, split second, blah blah blah. And it's really amazing. So I guess yeah, when it comes to that emotional side, and let's say we can write every day, but maybe it's not as
Mhm.
emotionally fulfilling, is sync maybe not the best route for us then? Like, should we just focus on maybe an artist side or something like that? What do you think?
No, I think sync is the best route. Even it does have to be a certain quality of the music that is
Yeah.
created for sync. So you have to make sure that what you're submitting is there. And libraries, some libraries might give you feedback like, hey, just work on this a little bit, and we'll
Mm,
get there. Some libraries, unfortunately, won't have the time. And even I've submitted, especially on the trailer side, to libraries, and they're like, this is close, but it's not quite there yet. Keep working
right,
at it.
right.
And there are libraries that I submitted to like a year ago, that I submitted that one time, got feedback, and I haven't submitted since then, because I was like, okay, let me really focus, and a year later, let's see if I can
Mm,
show them the progress. So even following up, especially ones that say follow up, like I said, keep track of all the things you're submitting to and what the feedback they give you. And some of them might say like, get back in touch in 2 months, and you should get
right.
back in touch in 2 months. But if you feel like your music isn't there, or you're such a perfectionist, I think at some point you just have to uh, release it, let it go,
Mm,
because we are going to be a harder judge on our own music. We might be a harder judge on our own music. And there's music that I thought, I wasn't really a fan of, that I've created, and I would still send it because it's an opportunity. And you never know, and they accept it. So it's just like, you never know. Your thinking could be your own hindrance, whereas someone else, it could be like gold for someone else. So you just never
mm,
know, when you put things out there. So,
right.
so definitely don't be too hard on yourself, but also put it out there and get feedback,
Mm,
because that's how you will improve and grow. So if you're like,
totally.
hey, I want to submit this to this opportunity, can you, or send it to someone for feedback, like, hey, would you mind giving me feedback on this? What do you think? And go from there. But
Right.
always, we're always learning and always growing. So it helps
Right.
to get sort of that input from an outside person,
Totally. Yeah, I was gonna
And
ask
get
you
and
what's like
also get
yeah,
I was
sorry.
gonna say get feedback from the right people,
Mm,
because your family probably loves you. They might,
yeah,
you know, they might be a little bit more biased to, oh, this is the best thing I ever heard,
yeah,
and then you send it out and you think, oh, this is the best thing. Everyone's telling me it's best, but everyone is like 10 people in your family,
sure.
and you send it to a library and they're like, no, this isn't it. So just make sure you're getting feedback from the right people, who can, help either place the songs or that have experience within the field that you're trying to get the music into.
That's great. Yeah, I was gonna ask you what's like the number one piece of advice you would give to someone starting and sing, but I think you just laid it all out, man. That's great.
Yeah, yeah, that was like number one, two, three, four.
Yeah, exactly. Be consistent, submit feedback, get advice from the right
Yeah.
people, all that stuff. That's great. Yeah, so my other question was when it comes to like success rate, what
Mm,
should one come to expect? Like obviously everyone's going to be a little bit different depending on their quality music and how many
mm.
publishers they submit to, but like let's say on a general scale, do you have any idea of how long one should wait until they start seeing a placement or two and what can they expect moving forward?
So this is where I was sort of blindsided because when I started getting back into sync in 2021, there was a new library I was working with, and I got a placement within like a month.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, okay, I can do this like every month.
yeah.
And the placement was on BMF Stars, 50 Cent show on Stars. And placement was great. It was a couple tracks. Took me like a week to come up with a batch of tracks for him, hip hop instrumentals, and submitted it. And they accepted a couple of them for the show. This
Mm,
was like May of that year. One other thing with payments are sometimes 6 to 9 months or a year later. So if it landed in May, I didn't get paid for it until December, and that was the sync fee for that. And then if depending on what channel it's on, you could also get back in royalties. But so for me, it was like, oh, okay, I can do this every month. And after that first month placement, there really wasn't much for a long time after that. So it could be anywhere from like, you can jump in, right place, right time, right song for the right opportunity, and you can land that placement, tomorrow or within a week or something. The reality, a lot of people might not see a placement for 1, 2 years, 3 years, and you're just still sending music to these companies, exclusive music, help them build their catalog, and then you never know, you might get a call one day, like, hey, this song someone really likes, they heard it, they might ask for edits and things like that.
mm,
But it's really just being consistent with sending the music to the libraries at least for uh, a solid year, maybe two, um,
right.
and, uh, and focusing and making sure that you're supplying the right libraries with
Mm,
the right music, and that you're uh, helping them build that catalog. And a lot of these libraries, they have opportunities, they have relationships with supervisors and companies. So just making sure that you're aligning with the right ones for the music
amazing.
that you make.
Yeah, that's a super helpful, man. Yeah, so it feels like nothing good really ever comes that quickly. Like we just have to work hard at it. We have to establish that routine and good things come to those who wait, right? So
Yep, yep. But while you're waiting, make sure you're making music and still
there you
submitting. The other thing is like out of sight, out of mind. So if you send something to a library and they might, they might have missed it. They have 100
go.
like submissions that day. It doesn't hurt to follow up like within maybe 2 weeks, three
Right,
weeks,
right.
a month, I would say at the longest.
Sure.
But it doesn't hurt to follow up like, hey, I submitted this thing, just making sure it's on your radar. Did you miss it? Or I can resend it. Did you have problems
Yeah,
opening
yeah,
it? Whatever the case is.
right.
But
That's
following up
awesome.
can also uh, you know, be also be key.
Yeah. I think if you maybe respond within a day or two, or like follow up within a day, it seems a little desperate, right? So maybe like a
Yeah,
week or two, like you said, that feels like a good rhythm where it's like you respect their time and you know that they have stuff to go through, but at the same time, you don't want to
yeah,
be out of their mind as either, right? So that makes sense.
yeah. I always do 2 weeks for the first follow up.
Right. Okay.
1 week is still a little uh,
Close,
too
right?
soon, at least to
Yeah.
me. 2 weeks is enough time. And then sometimes if I like forget about the 2 weeks, I might do
Hmm.
like 3 weeks or a month.
Yeah.
Anything after a month is probably too long. So two
Mm,
weeks to a month, but 2 weeks is a nice sweet spot for following up. Even outside of sync, I went to NAM this year, so when all the business cards I got, I followed up with those people 2 weeks after NAM, which is like a
mm.
nice sweet spot.
That's great. That's great. Um, Marcus, can you brag a little bit to me? Like tell me what your like biggest placements are, the ones like you're the most proud of. Share everything.
Yeah. The BMF Stars was surprising because it was, I was getting back into sync. So that was a big one back in 2021. The most recent, I would say, is probably the most proud, and that was technically not sync. It was okay, there's a little story. So last year I started studying trailer music, and I put out a couple of trailer music albums that are on streaming platforms. That was sort of my take on uh, trailer genres. So the first album was just trailer music. I put that out November 2021, or Thanksgiving 21.
Mm,
And then Christmas 21, I put out a vocal trailer album, which is like trailer music with vocal stuff. And then got feedback from those and like started studying more. And it's like, okay, I'm not quite there yet. Last summer, which was 2022 summer, I put out a neoclassical trailer album. And that one actually landed an opportunity to create more neoclassical albums for some libraries. But it also got to the hands of people at Disneyland, and they were updating this exhibit or this attraction at Disneyland Hollywood or Anaheim called Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. They found this neoclassical album, and they said this music that you created, this style would be great for the update to the attraction, which would feature a video telling the story of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass.
mm,
And they reached out, and at first I was like, wait, like one of those, imposter moments, like, why are you reaching out to me? You can literally go, this is Disney, so they can go to, Hans Zimmer or Ludwig or whoever.
mm.
And yeah, got the opportunity, and they was like, well, do you think you can do it? And I was like, yes. Like, even if I didn't think I could do it, like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell
Right.
Disney no. And the other part of the story is my big goal last year was to land a Disney trailer, like Disney,
Mm,
Marvel, Star Wars, any Disney property.
mm, mm.
So when that opportunity came, I was like, okay, this is aligning with sort of the goals and visions I had, like
Mhm.
the big goal last year. So that opportunity came in like September-ish, as a result of putting out that album. Worked on it. And another story there is when I talked to them, let's say it was on a Friday, they were like, we're going to do a pre-screening on Monday of this. We know you won't have the music by then. And I took that as like a personal challenge.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so
Yeah.
that weekend, I made it a point to have the music done. Didn't
Right.
get much sleep. And had the music to them. And Monday morning, they're like, what is this? And I was like, this is the music. And they're like, this is it. And I was like,
Over
probably
deliver, man.
the
Yeah.
yeah, the easiest opportunity. And after that, it was really, I think we only got up to version 3 of some of the cues. Some cues they took for version 1. Um, but that was more of the custom composition as opposed to
Mm,
sync, but it was based on a music that I created.
right.
And it was basically, one weekend of composing. And then that was September, October, and it launched in January. So it was basically just months of waiting for it to be like, oh, I hope they like it. Like, I hope they
Right.
place it. And then when I was in Anaheim for NAMM and I had my wife and kids out there, we went to see it live and heard my music. And I posted a
That's
video
the
on
best.
YouTube of us
That's
like
the best.
walking there. And that
Totally.
probably was one of the personal, like most proud, like musical
Absolutely.
moments and
You could have just
experiences.
turned
So
around to everyone and
yeah.
said, I wrote this music.
I wrote this. So yeah, I have a verse that I wrote. I do like open verse challenges. I'm not a rapper, but I have a
Right.
verse that I wrote that said, I landed music on a one attraction at Disney, but you would have thought that I scored the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. So
Ooh,
that's
there
like,
we
yeah,
go.
that's how
That's
how like
great.
and just being able to see that with my wife and kids is
Yeah.
definitely a special moment.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm happy for you. One more question I had. When it comes to collaborations, is this a thing in sync music? Like people work together, and then how does that work in the contract? Do they split it 50-50? Like, how does that usually go?
Yeah, so there are collaborations both with musicians who collaborate, and if you want to collaborate with like an artist or singer. Uh, there is what I'm seeing right now, trend wise, a trend where vocals are more value. They're valued more if a song has vocals.
Mm,
So if you create like a epic cinematic track, if you could just find a singer to just add some vocals on there, and then usually I typically personally I don't typically do work for hire. I typically say, hey, 50-50. There are you just make sure the libraries you're working with you understand their rules, because there are some libraries that only work with one person. They will not they don't want to do, whatever the case is, maybe they don't want to deal with all the paperwork. Like if you submit a song, only one person can work on that track.
Mm.
There is another library that I'm working with where they accept tracks up to, I think, 4 or 5 creators can be on the track. And in most cases, I ask the library before submitting like a song with multiple people, like,
Mm.
hey, if this is accepted, um, will you sign the other artists to your library,
Right.
and deal with the payments that way, and I can tell you the splits. And for the most case, libraries will deal with that. I personally don't deal with setting up splits and paying people, and getting like the tax forms and everything.
Mm.
I'm not there yet. So I
Mm.
usually reach out to the library and say, hey, I did this with, and usually I'm working with one, maybe 2 others on the track at the most, just to keep things simple. I also like easy math. So it's like, you know, up to 5 people, you can split one 100%, two 50-50, three 33-33, 4, you get 25% each, five 20% each. After that, like the math gets weird. Like, how do you split
Yeah.
6 into
Yep. Yep.
100? It's like, wait, yeah. Five, 5 or less, and it's easy math there for a split
Right.
if you're doing equal. And there are, someone reached out to me recently about doing a trillarization of one of their songs. And they said, I could take a higher percentage, of the royalty split if it gets placed, because um, I'd be, if we like the song, I'd be pitching it to some of the libraries that I think it can go to. So there
Hmm.
could be, there's a lot of flexibility there, negotiation depending on who has the bargaining power, things like that.
Mm.
Um, but yes, collaboration in most cases is key, and it also makes things, I will say, it can make things easier for you, as opposed to you doing 100% of the work. You can
Yeah.
now split it with other people, and you can say, hey, I'll just do the drums on this part. I'll just do the strings on this song. I'll just do the vocals.
Mm.
Collaboration can definitely help even the playing for it, help you get more productivity,
Right.
and things like that. So
Right.
collaboration is definitely key.
Sounds like maybe approaching the library to ask whether that track they're asking for can actually use collaboration. Because right, I think that's what you mentioned. Like if they're pitching or if they want a specific track in a style,
Mm.
maybe you're not 100% comfortable with, then if you know someone
Yeah.
else in that style, maybe who is more comfortable, maybe that pairing would make sense, and then maybe it's just a matter of getting their quote unquote permission to do that, right?
Yep, yep. So especially for right now, I'm getting a lot of requests from libraries for a specific style of songs for like
Mm.
albums they want to send out like into the industry to music supervisors. So if they're like, hey, we want these, like, summertime's coming up, so it's like, hey, we want these pop style songs. And then I would ask them at that point, like, hey, if I create something for this and I get artists to sing and write on it,
Hmm.
um, the 2 questions, how many can be on a track, and then um, can they sign with you, and you can deal with like the splits and everything,
Right,
if you
right.
if you accept the track. So those, I would say, would be the 2 questions to ask the library,
Got it.
so you know that up front.
Awesome, man. Yeah, man, that's a lot to take in. I know it's
Yeah.
it's hard to do all in one YouTube video, but yeah, I really appreciate it, man. So yeah, man, where can we find you? Where like your
Yeah.
music, your stuff? Let us know.
Yeah, everything. The Fingers, DAFINGAZ. Thefingers.com is the website. So I upload music there. I have some services. A new service I started actually offering is the trillarization of songs, or cinematicization. Is that a song? Is that a
Ooh,
word?
yeah, that's a word now.
Cinematicization of songs. So basically taking a song that an artist has created, in sort of taking it into the trailer space, or
Right.
the like epic cinematic music space, which is a lot of work. Usually takes me like a day or so. So that service isn't live on the site yet, but just shoot me a DM. I'm Defingers everywhere, DAFINGAZ, on the social media platforms.
Love it.
And the website defingers.com. So and then one other thing, if
Yes.
you're interested in sync, I started a Facebook group called Syncrets to Success, SYNCRETS, success, Secrets to Success. And there's a lot of people that's been posting opportunities there. Some libraries owners are there, saying, hey, I'm starting this library, come join, and things like that. So check out
Yeah.
Secrets to Success on Facebook also. So there's a couple
Amazing.
resources. Yeah.
Yeah, that group is growing super fast, guys. So make sure you jump on that. And
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Marcus.
you for jumping in.
No, of course, man.
Yeah.
Well, I had to accept the invitation, I mean,
Yeah.
it's been a lot of activity in there, and it's really cool to see what people are doing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time. And if you guys found this helpful, please go follow Marcus, show him the love, and yeah, we'll see everyone in the next video. Take care,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.